what's going on in the real court. From the Supreme Court to the court out there in L.A. with the Jackson versus AEG to the court down there in Florida. You're not interested in that, most of you brothers. You just want to be some star-spangled slaves and some star-spangled Negroes. You want to be able to eat your hot dogs, your baseball, and your apple pie and Chevrolet. But again, as the words of H. Brad Brown, that violence in America is as basic and germane as baseball, apple pie, and Chevrolet when we look at the violence that is going on in this society right now. But let me get into this message again from Frederick Douglass and our brother, Danny Glover, who has always been a human rights activist, always been on the forefront for standing up for the rights of the poor and the rights of our people worldwide. So let me give you this message entitled, again, to what to the slave is the 4th of July. So listen to this message and we'll be right back with more of the State of the City.
Former slave, editor of the abolition newspaper, the North Star, was asked to give a speech in 1852 in Rochester on the 4th of July.
Mr. President, friends and fellow citizens, he who could address this audience without a quailing sensation has stronger nerves than I have. I do not remember ever to have appeared as a speaker before an assembly more shrinkingly, nor with greater distrust of my ability than I do this day. A feeling has crept over me quite unfavorably to the exercise of my limited powers of speech. Fellow citizens, pardon me. Allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I or those I represent to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and the natural justice embodied in the Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I therefore called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us? Would to God, both for your sake and ours, that an affirmative answer could be truthfully returned to these questions. Then would my task be light and my burden easy and delightful. But such is not the state of the case. I say it with a sad sense of disparity between us. I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought light and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument, is needed. Oh, had I the ability and could reach the nation's ear, I would today pour out a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. For it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed, and his crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty in which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness swelling vanity, your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless, your denunciation of tyrants brass-fronted impudence, your shouts of liberty and quality hollow mockery, your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings with all your religious parade and solemnity are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There's not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of the United States at this very hour. Go where you may, search where you will, roam through all the monarchies and despots of the old world. Travel through South America, search out every abuse, and when you have found the last, lay your facts by the side of the everyday practices of this nation, and you will say with me that for revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without a rival.
Welcome back. You listen to the State of the City. That, of course, was the words of Frederick Douglass, the Honorable Frederick Douglass, abolitionist, freedom fighter, and, of course, a man who was enslaved right here in Baltimore, in Maryland, on the Eastern Shore, and, of course, talked about Fells Point. For those of you that will be traveling to Fells Point in Canton, don't you ever forget, our mothers and fathers were brought right here, sold right here, toiled here. Their blood, sweat, and tears are on that copper stone of Fells Point of Canton, throughout that inner harbor, the Port Discovery, the marketplace, which was Market Street, which they would sell our mothers and fathers, not as chattel, but as cattle, and those worse and less than cattle. So may we never, ever, ever forget that. But we got to look at what has taken place in 2013 today, as you have many and plenty that will be striving to be bicentennial or tricentennial or the new millennial Negroes. Let me give you one other clip from Richard Pryor talking about the bicentennial, but we'll bring it on up to date to the tricentennial or the millennial Negroes. Of course, you know Richard Pryor words are not Negro, but he'll give it to you, not the N word, but as it truly really is. Listen to this and we'll be right back with more of the State of the City.
Say, Will, they have some nigga 200 years old in blackface with stars and stripes on his forehead. Some eyes, lips just a shining. And he'll have that lovely white folks expression on his face. But he's happy. He's happy because he's been here 200 years. Said, I'm just so thrilled to be here. Over here in America, I'm so glad y'all took me out to die, homie. I used to live to be 150. Now I die of high blood pressure by the time I'm 52. And that thrills me to death. I'm just so pleased America's gonna last. They brought me over here in a boat. There was 400 of us come over here. 360 of us died on the way over here. I love that. That just thrilled me so. I don't know, you white folks are just so good to us. got over here, another 20 of us died from disease. But you didn't have no doctors to take care of us. I'm so sorry you didn't. Upset you all some too, didn't it? Then they split us all up. Yes, sir, we took my mom over that way, took my wife that way, took my kids over yonder. I'm just so happy. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do if I don't get 200 more years of this. Lord of mercy. Yes, sorry. I don't know where my old mama is now. She up yonder in that big white folks in the sky. Y'all probably done forgot about it. But I ain't gonna never forget it.
Welcome back. And again, the words of the great one, Richard Pryor, the real king of comedy, the bicentennial Negro. Let me do this. We're going to open up the line shortly, but let me go to this clip now talking about your president. So I thought it's so interesting how all of this is kind of coming, I think, to a head with the president of the United States, President Barack Obama, the 44th president in Africa, visiting, of course, the Honorable Nelson Mandela, the first elected or selected black president of South Africa, and the first selected president in modern history in America, because there were 5 other black men and men of color that was in the White House. I won't get into their names today. And, of course, the whole issue of the Civil War and the Gettysburg battle, which took place 150 years ago this day and tomorrow, as well as looking at all of the decisions that have come down from the Supreme Court, and at a time when the rights of blacks are being turned in reverse right now. You have the President of the United States silent, not standing up for our rights, but daring to go to Africa and use the trip to Africa for the multinational corporations to counter the growth of China, the growth of Brazil, the growth of India, the growth of Russia, and their organization called BRIC, B-R-I-C-K, standing for Brazil, Russia, India, and China. So they want to have a détente or a balance against China and Russia. So this, as you saw in the movie 2012, would lead to an economic war, a currency war, a war for the booty of Africa, meaning the spoils, the goods, the natural resources of Africa. And then your sons and your daughters, your husbands, will be asked to go and fight and die and kill with AFRICOM in Africa, not going in terms of with a new policy, but it will be nothing but neocolonialism. And then on top of that, pushing an agenda, not human rights, not the issue of slave labor in the mines that the De Beers, the Oppenheimers, the Rothschilds, and others are owning in many countries in Africa, but particularly in South Africa. Not pushing the issue of, again, bringing Africa into the 21st century or the new millennium century so that we have railroads and high-speed rail as China has for Africa to be able to connect cities and countries in Africa, as Colonel Muammar Gaddafi attempted to do in terms of setting up and establishing an African bank so that Africa would not be in debt to Europe, the World Bank, the IMF, and other, again, international bankers, but to be able to have Africa develop with Africans at home and abroad. But the question we'll be asking is, did the President of the United States take any African in America or Africans from the diaspora to Africa with him? Did he take any black businessmen that have small businesses or large businesses to Africa to talk about, again, trade with Africa? Or did he take the same old white multinational corporations from Microsoft, Bill Gates, Coca-Cola, Symbion? Are these the ones that traveled with him to Africa? That's the question you got to ask, because those of us in the know already know. But again, let me get into this clip, because what he did go over there to talk about and to push was not human rights, not women rights, not senior rights, not children's rights, but he went there to talk about gay rights to the people of the motherland. How low can he go, or how down low could he go to do such a thing? But let me give you this clip, and we'll talk about and open up the line shortly to ask your thoughts on the 4th of July, and then your president, who's pledging billions to boost Africa's infrastructure, while the infrastructure in this country is falling apart and crumbling, And they'll soon be coming with these rolling brownouts or blackouts. And he's over there talking about building an electrical grid. Of course, that would be Exelon, who he is friends with Bill, what's his name? Bill Ayers, and Bill Ayers' father, who started Exelon.